Auckland's best restaurant, you see, it's hand in glove, was announced last night by Metro magazine. Depot, owned by Al Brown, who was here in the studio yesterday, took out Auckland's top restaurant and best city bistro. So it got us thinking, what makes a good restaurant, an award-winning restaurant? And what makes a bad restaurant a bad restaurant? We're joined now by Metro Restaurant Awards judge, Simon Wilson. Simon, good morning.
Good morning, Paul.
Are you too skinny to be a restaurant judge?
I do try to be careful.
Because restaurants, when you go in Auckland, must think, oh my God.
Well, they do. And I was going to say, the reason I'm skinny, one of the reasons I'm skinny, I think, is that you can eat very healthily in restaurants these days. When I started doing this, it took me 3 days to recover from a fine dining meal, all the butter, all the sugar.
Yep.
That's not the case anymore. They do see me coming. That's true. I was in a restaurant, one of the restaurants I judged for this. The chef told me last night he was not the head chef. The head chef, it was his night off. The chef who was in charge of the kitchen that night told me that he was shitting bricks. But
as soon as you saw you walk through the door.
That's right. Yeah, as soon as they told him. But he did very well. He did so well. I thought, gosh, am I sitting in the winning restaurant here?
So everyone now who's listening and watching this will be thinking, are you getting different food in restaurants than we are?
Well, I don't think it's really possible for them to reinvent the quality of how they cook just because they see me coming. Of course, we have a team of judges. So in this particular case, I thought it was terrific. I sent another judge in. They didn't know he was a judge. He had a good time, but he didn't have the same great time I had. That was useful for both of us to know. We had a long talk about it, and I sent a third judge in. And in the end, that restaurant did very well in our awards, but it didn't win.
All right. What makes a winning restaurant? What are the keys, the things you've got to get right?
Well, obviously the food. The service is the thing that separates the best from the rest, really.
Isn't it funny? Because quite often it's the service you remember.
That's right. That's right. It's the experience of sitting in a restaurant that makes the place memorable, that makes you want to go back there. And that is not just service, of course. The place itself has to be terrific. What you eat. One of the awful ironies for chefs is that the better a time people are having in a restaurant, very often the less they'll notice what they're eating. The poor old chefs. But the quality of the experience, which is really controlled by the quality of the staff on the floor, is so critical.
How important is decor and the sort of themed restaurant? Because I know certainly with Depot, that's one of the edges, isn't it?
I think there's a thing about Depot. It's a room that I don't know what the science of it is, but you can sit in that room and it feels beautifully proportioned. Odette's, a new restaurant at CityWorks Depot in Auckland, is another one where it's a large, airy room. It's quite a different kind of room from Depot, but it just feels like you're in a lovely space. It is beautifully designed, of course, but the proportions of the room do have quite a lot to do with it.
It's funny though, isn't it? Because you could walk into Depot and think that it was hostile and it's like being in a Saw movie, with the incandescent bulbs just hanging from rusty lampshades.
Well, they're not rusty, of course.
The rust is painted on.
Yeah, the rust is painted over. Yes. If you, Al Brown in his book talks about the work they put into getting the service standard so high, and they really do work it very hard. The staff there are a lot of floor staff, and Al leads them. He's on the floor himself, clearing
very
plates and so on. Very, very personable, know what they're doing, and they're very, very good at just that informal ability to make you feel special on the night.
Now, that is a huge point, and you must have found this many times as well when you're going around reviewing restaurants, that you can get service which is sycophantic, and it's very easy to sit on that line, being nice and personable and knowledgeable versus sycophantic.
It is, and the best, certainly in the fine dining and the smart dining restaurants where it's easier for them to be sycophantic because they fall into that. The best avoid that. The best service staff also know how to deal differently with one group from another, where there might be a group of people who want a more formal style of service and quite like a little bit of bowing and scraping, and they might be able to do that. But in other cases, they'll get down on their hands and knees and chat quietly to you.
You've been doing this for ages. This is one of your most popular editions in Metro magazine. In fact, the second most popular of the year, isn't it?
That's right, yes.
So it's this edition, Best Restaurants of Auckland and Metro. You've been doing this for a long time. What is the trend now? Where are we going with restaurants?
The trend now is towards more informal eating, less focus on the fine dining. We have terrific fine dining restaurants in Auckland. French Cafe won that award for us.
People do want to go out and just have fun, don't they?
They want to go and have fun, and the ability of people like Al Brown to give you an experience which is a lot of fun, but where the food is fantastic and the service is fantastic, that's the trend.
Brilliant. Simon, thank you so much for joining us. Simon Wilson, Metro editor, judge and reviewer. He eats better than anyone else around this table.